Hey everybody, this is Zachary Jeans and I'm coming to you live from Vancouver, Washington. And I have a special guest today, Scott Smith, a dear friend, a mentor, uh, just a great guy, and a guest on Impact Matters Chat. Scott and I met several years ago, guess what, through Twitter. And since we've become great friends, he lives just down south in Corvallis, Oregon. Corvallis, home of the Oregon State Beavers, and you may know them as the #1 team in the nation for baseball right now. But yeah, so please welcome Scott. Scott, how are you doing today, man?
Hey Zach, it's great to see you and try the new Hangouts with you. I'm doing great. It's been a good day. It's been a good week. Just had it. You mentioned the chat and Impact Matters chat Monday night. 4 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast. And I tell you, this week's chat was just rocking it.
Well, yeah, let's get to that here in a second. But let's give folks a chance to get to know you. So I know you, we get together infrequently, probably once every 6 weeks or so, a couple of months, and we get together with a small group of folks.
Yeah.
And we all come from different backgrounds in business, but then we get together and talk business. What is it that you get to do? How do you get to help companies?
It's so just my brief resume looks like this, right? So my undergraduate degree was in business and finance with a minor in behavioral sciences. I spent 4 years in accounting, 12 years in banking, 7 years running supply chain operations for Hewlett Packard. Corvallis and San Diego sites, but going through the accounting and through banking, I just worked with hundreds of businesses. And when I went to HP, I got involved with a MBA program, and that's what kind of took me into the supply chain. So I got to see the big world, if you will. And but having worked with those small companies, I met these owners that you could tell it didn't matter what industry, what segment, what community they were in, they were going to run a good business. And then I met people that, had no business being in business. It's just like, find a W-2 somewhere, go home and be happy, right?
Right.
And it's not bad on them. It's just, there's a specific skill set that some people have, and it's just like, not everyone should be a singer, and you can train, you can get lessons, you can do everything, but if you don't have that fundamental talent, you'll be better, but it may not still be your occupation. So I saw this with business. So I spent 7 years with Hewlett Packard, and great company, great opportunity, and met some really good folks. But in 2007, I left the company. They'd been giving a lot of packages out. Maybe I should have taken one, but I just left. Mainly because every time we met with senior management, we were just trying to justify our existence. Why did we do what we did, where we do it? That is, why were we not doing all of the production, engineering, design, sales, and marketing out of Asia? Perceived to be cheaper, and that just seemed non-productive.
Terrible working relationship, right? I mean,
pardon? Yeah.
Well, it makes for a terrible working relationship. I mean, like on the one hand, you have a job to do, and then on the other hand, you spend all your time, not all of your time, but a good chunk of time, not doing your job because your job that your company is telling you have to do is justify your existence.
Right.
So you have 2 jobs for the same company, justify your experience, and also go do this work.
Right, yeah. So it was non-productive. So I left, and I gave a 30-day notice, and it's crazy because I had no job to go to. I was just trusting that God was going to provide for me, and maybe I was, being arrogant, but I
so
said,
you just took the leap. How was your wife reaction to that?
And there were some other things that were going on, and And it's like, I just need to do this. And so I gave 30-day notice.
Yeah.
And that week, I got a phone call from a company that I had actually interviewed with a year and a half before. Small family-owned manufacturing business. I don't even remember how I found out about the job. I wasn't really actively looking, but I saw it. I sent a resume in. They say we interview, and I interviewed with them, and they chose at that time to not hire anybody. But I went through actually, and I did an analysis on the company, and I sent them this PowerPoint, kind of giving my view of their company, and probably too much information. But they took my recommendations and implemented them. And then a year and a half later, within that first week that I had given my 30-day notice, I get a call. Hey, this is Randy from Gibson Holders. We talked about a year and a half ago. I don't know if you remember, but we'd like to offer you a job as Chief Operating Officer for our company.
No way.
Now it's a big title, COO, right? Which is a thing that my mother loved, but there's only 14 people in the company, so. But my mom thought it was cool.
COO being called out of the blue? That's pretty
cool. Yeah, within a week. So I said, okay, I must have made the right decision. And this company was a family-owned business, started in like 1962, third-generation family owners. So the lady who owned it, her and her husband were running it. Her grandfather started the company, moved it out to Eugene in the 70s or something, and her father ran the business, father and mother. Her mother got very sick, and so here you go, daughter, take the business. Well, she was an attorney, and that's what she wanted to do. The company had been losing money, and their sales were declining year over year for the last 3 years. And so I came in, and people can look on my LinkedIn resume, right? My LinkedIn profile under Gibson Holders, and in there's a process. I go through the process that we did, basically a 5-step process. But some of the fundamentals, like they didn't have a corporate budget, and so cash flow was crazy. They were manufacturing wire holders, right? So these little tripod type book holders, and so their manufacturing was, we sold them all over the world, and so that's wire. So the wire would come in on these big spools, and they buy a truckload at a time. It was like $30,000-$40,000, and so they'd have to buy a wire, and it was like, all right, nobody use anything because they ran out of cash, right? They spent all their cash. So don't print anything, don't use any paper clips because we can't afford that. And then they'd have to buy this. So the plastisol, which is this plastic coating that goes on it, you'll find it on like pliers and tools like that. It's the same type thing. It comes in these big 1,000-liter totes, and it's same thing. They'd buy those, and it'd be like $20,000. So they were constantly running out of wire and plastisol at the same time. So all of a sudden they're like, they need 50 grand right out of the bat, right? And so part of the process was just to go through and do some leveling of their manufacturing, of the ordering, and so that the cash flow leveled out. So that was a key thing, and that was just budgeting.
And let me ask you a question about that. So they obviously know it's a problem, and they're bringing you in because things you said mattered to them. A year and a half later, they realized we need this guy. And still, I'm sure you met some sort of resistance inside a company when you're trying to disrupt and bring change, even if it's good change. How did you? Can you share a little bit about how you overcame some of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know this is a problem, but you're new here and we don't really want to change. How did you handle that?
Yeah, it's because they had employees that had been there for a dozen years or more. They had some that were newer as well, but the key employees had been there for a long time, and you get very comfortable with the way things are. Humans follow the laws of physics, right? We follow the law of inertia.
Yeah.
So a body in motion tends to stay in motion, and a body at rest tends to stay at rest. And so any type of change is met with resistance to some degree. And so what it really came down to be is around communication, because if you just came in and saw some things that needed to be changed. So let's go back to the budget. You go, oh, you use QuickBooks, but you don't have a budget. So you don't know if you're selling as much as you should, or you don't know where your finances are. So let's just put together a budget. It's just a guideline, right? It's not a rule. So now we know how much but what you had to do is not say, go make a budget, right? It was kind of the lead people up to that moment of discovery, and then let them go to the other side. So, you're asking leading questions. You go, oh, okay, so we've got this bin over here. These are scrap parts. So how do we know that those are scrap? I'm coming in as can you educate me? Right.
I see.
Right. And so we know.
Oh, I think I lost the sound on you. There we go.
Right,
There
back in
for a
again.
real quick second, I lost all the sound.
Yeah, it froze up on both ends. So
Really
so
crazy.
the key on this was the communication, and setting up the opportunities for those key employees to teach me their area of expertise. And of course, every job has areas of frustration. So letting those people vent, but in an educational format. So tell me what's good. Tell me what challenges you have. What would you do to change them? Well, have you looked at these things? And again, not from a accusatory question point of view,
Right.
but from an interested student. Look, Zach, you know all about, and we'll pick the topic Salesforce. I say, Zach, why is this a good product? Not, in a derogatory sense. It's just, look, I have options. I don't know that product. You tell me,
Right.
right? And just be sincere. And then when you bring these things out and you go, well, okay, so this is a frustration. What if we tracked how much we spent and how many sales we had? Would that help you? Oh, that'd be great. Then I'd know when to buy, material and the lead time and all this stuff. And go, okay. Oh, and cash flow is kind of an issue. What if we didn't have to buy plastisol and wire in the same month? Oh, that'd be great. Well, how could we do that, right? So you bring people up to that moment of discovery, and we know from the neuroscience, people have success, dopamine fires off in their brain, right? That's a reward. So you feel good, and so when somebody sinks that long putt, it's like fist pump and everything, right? Because it's like that was a challenge, and I was successful. So your brain fires these things off, right? The 3-pointer to win the game, right? Boom, all these things fire off. These are the opportunities in that type of situation to bring people up to that moment of discovery. Don't give it to them.
Nice.
Then they want to do that. Then they want to do that again.
Nice. So, so you had some success with this company, and then down the line, you eventually started your own business doing this with businesses. Rather than going inside one company, you work with a number of companies. So you go through this discovery process with other organizations. do you find that there's a sort of kind of company that you like to work with, or do you how do you who do you like to work with? Like what kind of organizations?
Right. So for me, I like the smaller companies, and that's from single person up, maybe 10, 12, 14 employees like that. Um, there are companies that are consultants, excuse me, that will specialize in, when they call small and medium business, they're talking like 50 to 200 employees. Um, and that's not really the area that I'm interested in, because it's harder to make an impact
Right,
with
right.
somebody that's got a small company, but still making reasonable sales, right? So right now I'm looking at a company down in Bishop, California, and it's a clothing store.
Hmm.
But you're only talking there 4 employees. Same thing, a family-owned business, and it's going through some transition. Um, so they're making maybe 500,000 a year in sales. So that's plenty good. And you don't need that many people to do it.
Hmm.
But when we can make these incremental changes, we can just go through and ask those questions. So how do you do this? How do you do that? And then through that, they have to go, well, gosh, I've never really thought how we do our ordering process.
Right.
And so it just becomes a time of discovery for them. So I was talking with a lady. She's a career coach. I was talking with her yesterday, Monday, yeah. And they do so her as a career coach, they do the same type thing. She's going, I'm not going to tell you what job you should do, but we'll start getting through all the junk in your life and help you focus in on the things that you like to do and decide, is that the job you're in? Is there a different job? Can we just modify the job that you're in to make it more satisfactory, right? So it's not necessarily jumping out of a job. And I told her, Tammy, you are like Michelangelo.
Hmm.
How's that? And I said, somebody asked Michelangelo, it's like, you get this piece of marble, how do you create these beautiful sculptures? This is like, I just take all the stuff away that's not the man. And so she's going through and getting rid of all the stuff that's not in that person's career interest.
Wow, getting rid of all the marble that doesn't belong as a part of the sculpture.
Right.
That's a powerful image.
And so this is, this is what I'm helping her in her business by helping her understand in a very simple analogy what it is she does.
Hmm. That is good. And I like that analogy because working with people, we would all admit, maybe we wouldn't admit, but we're hard to work with because we don't like change, and marble doesn't like to be changed either, right? And
Yeah.
so chipping away at it, now I've never worked on marble, but I gotta imagine it's harder to work with than clay. So
You can add clay, but you can't add marble.
no, that's true, right? So yeah, I imagine that there's a lot of interesting, additional things you can pull away from that metaphor. Well, hey, let me transition us here. So,
Yeah.
so we actually had the opportunity not too long ago to have you as a guest host on Impact Matters Chat. Impact Matters Chat, for those of you watching for the first time, Impact Matters Chat is a leadership-oriented chat that discovers the best practices, mindsets, and ways of doing things as it regards various topics that come up in our life and work. So that sounds a little bit broad, but really what we're after is the most effective thing that helps you be impactful in your organization or in your life. So I invite various guests on to help me develop 10 or so questions. We cover those over the course of 1 hour on Mondays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's 7 p.m. Eastern. And during that time on Twitter, if you go to the hashtag, that's that little pound sign, right? Impact Matters, you will see a whole list of tweets going on about that. And then in the course of doing that, I have the wonderful opportunity to meet folks like Scott and have a little more discussion around it. We had the chance to get together. Scott, could you tell us a little bit about what we got to explore during your time on Impact Matters here not too long ago?
Yeah. So so if you looked at my business card, or you go to my website, and I'll plug it, dscottsmith.co.
Yeah. Could you say that again? Where can we find more about you? Where is it?
Yeah. So you can go to the website dscottsmith.co, and you can find my website there, and you can find links to my social channels as well. And I'll throw one more link out there. Just go dscottsmith.co/next level. Just 2 words run together, next level. And there's a video there that talks about intentional change, and we can chat about that in a moment. Let's go back to the Impact Matters.
Let me interject right there. For those of you watching or listening, in the comments section of this video, I will make sure and have those links and any other links that are important, including the Impact Matters chat link to Twitter. So just go ahead and scroll down, leave a like, make sure you leave a like, and go ahead and you can follow the links there, and we'll make sure that we get those up. So
Perfect.
Go ahead.
So we talked about active listening. That was the topic of the chat for that night. And we get the 10 questions in 60 minutes, and it's a fast feed, right? But everyone's kind of got their different style. I get the tweet chat window open on one screen, and then I've got my Twitter notifications on another screen, and on my phone, and so it's dinging when you get pinged or notified, and you're trying to read the comments that go by. The questions will, so we have a topic, and then you'll go through and look at the questions. So it'll say Q1, what is active listening? Say.
Right.
And we'll put in A1 to say I'm addressing that question. So active listening is being present with the person, right? So not looking at my phone while I'm talking to Zach, but being present. All these kind of active listening skills, good body posture, good eye contact.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to you. What? Wait, what?
Rephrasing but I love it. Right? I love it in Guardians of the Galaxy when they're having their planning meeting, and he says, they go through the whole plan. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking of something else." So here's an interesting point. In research, they have found that we daydream between 30 and 50% of our waking hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is measured, right? This is a study that they've done. 30 to 50% of our waking time, because our brain can process 10 billion bits of information a second. 10 billion. So our brains work a lot faster than the speed of sound, right? So as I'm talking, things come, and you can still think, "Oh, I'm gonna just pick up my phone," and because we can process so fast. So it's easy to get distracted when we're listening to people. So we went through with active listening, but if you look at the title on my business card and on my website, it says Motivational Listener. And I admit that this was a phrase that my wife came up with. Someone asked her one time what she did, and very accurately, she said she was a motivational listener. I said, "Christine, I love that. I will give you full credit, but I am stealing that term." Motivational listener.
Yeah, that's great. What is a motivational listener?
So what I did is, as I looked back over my life and what I did, and the way I interacted with people, and motivational listening was a way to codify what I do. And so if someone says, so Scott, what is motivational listening? The fundamental point is the goal of motivational listening is for the speaker to exit the conversation feeling better about themselves than when they entered. Right? So that's it. So if we have a conversation, so if we go to a local, so this morning I was at the Chamber of Commerce greeters event. And so if I run into Zachary Jeans and I say, oh, hi, Zachary, I'm Scott Smith, what's going on in your world? And you start, you tell me some things, then my goal is to keep extracting that information out and then reflecting it back, right? So this is the active listening thing.
Right.
So ask those questions, open-ended questions, not the yes or no type closed questions, like, are you in social media? Yes. Or no. It's like, tell me what you do. How did you do that? How did you get involved in that? What are the things that you like about it? What type of clients do you work with? Open-ended. And then kind of rephrase those back. Oh, so you like to work with these folks. You do those. You were doing this, and then you got involved in that. These are all questions to essentially kind of take you on a verbal journey through where you were and how you got to where you are. Now you're in this room facing me. And the brain mechanics of this is that when we learn new things, we work in our short-term memory, high energy. It takes a lot of our energy to learn new things. But as you continue to do things, so you learn a software program, it's hard. And then pretty soon you just click, 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 right? You don't need to think about it. Or when you drive, you don't need to think about, let's see, I put the key in and then it's, let's see, left to turn it on. We don't think about that, right? You jam the key in, you turn it on, and you go. Because you're in your hardwired part of your brain. Literally, new neural pathways have been formed. And it takes very low energy for you to do that. Now, the problem becomes that it becomes so much a part of you, you forget how remarkable that information is. So yesterday when I'm talking to Tammy, the career coach, and she's been doing this for like 11 years. So I asked her a couple of questions, and she just breathes out these answers, right, about her process. And it's a 5-month process, and this and that, and we take people through this, and here's this passion, and all this stuff, and it's just coming out of her, right, just like breathing. And when
Oh, we lost you. Whoops. We lost your sound here. How's our internet connection real quick?
Wi-Fi connection, because this is coming through on the tablet.
Oh.
So I don't have because it didn't come through on the PC. I'm on a.
Gotcha. Okay. So where we cut off there is you were explaining how she breathes out these answers.
Right.
And so you said, okay, this is a 5-month process. And then you were helping her see that this stuff can come out and be put down in a way that people can understand.
So what happens is so I say, and let's just take passion for the moment, right? So this is, find something that you do that you have a passion for, is one of the process steps that she goes through. And so she's explaining how that works. Well, she's not on Google looking it up. She's not pulling out a reference manual to pull it up. She just knows this stuff. And, but she went, you have hard education. You get workshops, seminars, books, trial and error. This is how we learn what we do, right? So I'll say, so I have a friend who's a plumber. He's been plumbing for 40 years, right? And so when Jeff finishes an install, he doesn't turn around, dust off his hands and say, well, that's a pretty remarkable job. knows what parts you need, how to do it, where the problems are going to be. This is not common knowledge. He had to work to get that information. And yet he's like, well, doesn't everyone know you use this kind of fitting for that or this for that? It's like, no.
Mm-mm.
And so the goal of motivational listening is to take that person on a journey and go, okay, so how did you get to where you're at today? How did you become a career coach? Oh, I was doing, I was a teacher and I was working in HR and I got into this stuff and I was like, oh, okay. And then, so, in HR, you were kind of counseling people in careers, but specific for that company. Yeah. And then I found these ways to broaden it out. Oh, okay. And then, you kind of go through and then you go and you reflect that to the folks. You go, okay, so you were here and this light came on and you saw how these things could be put into a process and help people in their jobs. It's just like, yeah, I'm the Michelangelo.
The lights going on for your for the person that you're working with, the small business, right? It's like you're helping them hear better, and this is what we kind of cover in our Impact Matters chat. Well, let me ask you then. So, and maybe we can close on this. So, there are times when we find that we're working with a client and we've already talked about how to deal with resistance to change. It's actually employing a lot of what we're talking about with the motivational listening, letting that self-discovery process go through. But then how do you, as the consultant, how do you guard against them thinking that it was their idea to the point where they're like, why am I even paying you? I figured this out on myself and it's such common sense. And it wasn't because, well, it is, but you're helping them discover. How do you then go justify your expense?
Yeah, that, I tell you, that is a really tough question.
It is. Because I go through it.
So I think of it as this way. So I have a friend of mine that's a really good sound technician. So he'll, so when he goes to do sound reinforcement for a wedding or in a church or for a music group or something like that, he's successful when nobody notices the sound reinforcement, right? So if you're getting feedback or the voices are muddy or one instrument is overpowering all the others and stuff, everyone's blaming the sound guy, but nobody praises the sound guy. Right. If they walk in and it's just like, wow, that was a wonderful concert, and they just list all the things that they enjoyed about it, but no one ever said the sound tech must have really done a good job. And that's the same challenge that we have as consultants, because if we come in,
no sound. Well, we're losing sound here. Hold on just a sec. How's the bandwidth? Yeah. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, now I've got you. Literally,
yeah.
We're cutting in and out. But you're right. So if somebody cuts in with good sound, nobody knows that they enjoy the experience, but they don't sit there and praise the person who, basically made the whole experience great. They aren't looking to give that person the credit. They give the credit to the band, or they give it to maybe even to the facility, maybe to the producer, but they aren't thinking of the sound tech. And I think our connection has failed. Are you there? I think we've lost you, bud. So anyway, hey everybody, this is Zachary Jeans, and it has been a fascinating interview with D. Scott Smith. You can find Scott on Twitter at D. Scott, and just a fantastic guy who knows how to help your business go from A to B to C in terms of examining your processes, examining the way in which that you're operating, making sure, and this can work for a single person organization or somebody in 30, 50 employees. Scott is just really great at coming in with all this background, has an MBA background with HP and banking, worked with small businesses. He really understands how to listen and hear what you're saying and then put it in front of you in such a way that you have the ability to discover really who you are as an organization and as a business. And it's just incredibly powerful when you start to realize that you're doing some good things, but then you're doing some things that you have no justification for, right? And Scott can help you figure that out. You want to contact him, you can look in our notes right down below. If you look below the YouTube and look in the more information, you'll see links to Scott. Please, 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 if you are struggling at all, if you realize that your organization, your manufacturer, any sort of business that needs help re-understanding yourself, you need to work with Scott. So thank you so much. Please join us on Impact Matters Chat. It's every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific time or 7 p.m. Eastern. And